Hey everybody, it's me, it's Undead Viking, coming to another video review. I do apologize if my voice cuts out a little bit here. I do have a bit of a summer cold. Thank goodness it's finally summer, however. And if I occasionally take a sip of water, please forgive me. The game I'm reviewing today is Civility. This game is either in Kickstarter right now or will be very shortly. This is a game that I knew nothing about prior to the designers contacting me and asked me if it's something that I'd be willing to take a look at their prototype and then possibly review. I asked them to tell me a little bit about the game, and they said, it's got a civilization theme, it's kind of a dice Euro, and I said, stop, dice Euro, send it to me, I'll check it out, because I do love me a Euro game that has dice used in some way, shape, or form. So they sent me a really cool looking prototype, and I played it with my friends, and we enjoyed the heck out of it. And so I said, sure, I'll do a review for you, and that's why you're watching this right now. As if you've never seen any of my reviews before, shame on you. But if you never have, I will now show you how to play the game of Civility. I'll kind of go over the rules and give you, hopefully, a good feel for how the game is played. And then, after that's done, I will wrap up, and I'll tell you why I dig it and why I'm going to back the game and get a copy once it's published and put it on my shelf so I can play it anytime I want. And then hopefully, somewhere along the way, I will impart enough knowledge onto you that'll let you know whether or not it's a game that will work for you and your group, and you'll be able to decide if it's something that you want to back and that you'll enjoy. Alright, so I don't have a game box to show you. I do apologize. I mean, I have rules that say Civility up there. Civility! So, anyway, let me show you how to play the game, and then we'll go from there, alright? Here we go. Another glass of water here. This is the game board in a 4-player game setup of Civility. Now, before I start pointing out different things about the game board and start telling you how to play the game, as I do with almost every game that I do that is a prototype or a Kickstarter, I can't guarantee that the game will look like this once it is published. So I do know that the art is very close to being finalized, but on each one of these game boards you see these tons of dice. These are the only dice you roll. The dice here are the markers to tell you what level each of these little departments are that each city has. And when the game actually gets published, they will be dials that you'll be able to turn and increase and decrease as the game goes on. As a matter of fact, if you can see this, maybe, and I apologize if you can't, but you can see there's little dials there, and it has like a 3, and this is a 1, so it tells you what those start at. And so if this medieval city ever increased its army from 3 to 4, you just take that, and it has a 3 there. You just find the 4, and you just put that there, and so you're able to see what that's at. Pretty simple. Each city has this portion which shows the different level of all those departments that they have, and they also have this which shows which status level you're at. In the beginner game you start off at status level 1. This is not the beginner game. This is the standard game. As the game begins, as you claim status cards, which I'll show in just a moment, each status card you claim increases the status of the city. If you're able to move your marker all the way to status 5, you will win the game. Each status has with it a special ability that you get. Sometimes it's an ability that you just get to use at any time. Sometimes it's a one-use ability. Like the medieval city at status 1 gets to hold an additional card. Normally, you're only able to hold 4 cards in your hand, and you have to discard extras. Like status level 2 is army is doubled during battle. Your army, its strength, when you go and you fight somebody else, you double that strength of the thing, of your city's ability or your city's army. Unlike a lot of games where with little scales like this where you get to keep the preceding ability, you don't in this game. You lose the preceding ability and you gain the new one. And so that adds kind of a nice little twist to the game. Some abilities can only be used once, and then you just can't. So if you ever do have a situation where you have an ability that's used once and you're going to go up in a status, you might want to try to use that ability before you go up, because you want to increase your status, because that's the only way you can win the game, is by getting to status 5. This isn't a game that has a set number of turns. You play until somebody else just is better than everybody else. As I said, there is a status card. You claim status cards to by fulfilling the requirements. So we'll turn one over here, and this one says you trade in 1 government and 2 economy. And so what you will do is you will try to increase your cities, both their trade and economy on these little department levels, until you can actually trade those in, and then you claim this status. So now everybody's racing to get that ability and be able to claim it so they can move up on their board. I like that because of the fact that each person now is competing for a central goal. This isn't something where each person has their own little set idea or ladder that they're climbing. This everybody is heading towards the same result. So the way the play of the game is, well, I should mention this. There's this giant deck of cards here. This is the Civility deck. You can see it's got a ton of cards. There's a bunch of different types of cards in that deck. I'm just going to I took some out here just to kind of show you what each card is. There are anytime cards, which can be played, you guessed it, at any time. So you just play this card down and you just go ahead and use it. There are action cards. Action cards can be played on your turn. You can play up to 2 action cards on your turn. Like this action right here is like steal a card, so you just get steal a card. And you'll notice this card is also an action card. It says upgrade 2 department levels, so you can obviously that's really good. You notice there's a die result there. You have to be able to have claim that die roll of 5 in order to use this card. So some actions don't use cards, some actions don't use dice, some actions these action cards do. There are ability cards. Ability cards also have dice values on the bottom. Ability cards are not like actions. They give you an ability that you can you continue to use for the rest of the game, unless you lose this card or replace it with something else. There are 2 types of ability cards. One that have 1 die, like you can see this one needs a 3, and there are cards that require 2 dice. So this one's like got a 2 and a 4. And you might be saying, how do I get 2 dice? Well, you know what? You might not be asking that at all, but I'll explain how you would get 2 dice to be able to activate these types of cards. Second to last card, or penultimate, if you will, battle cards. Battle cards are only used during wars that you have with other people, and you use these to increase your battle value. And so you play these to so you hopefully can defeat who you're fighting. And these range from 1 to 3 as far as their values. This one's a 1. And the final are world event cards. If you draw a world event card, you play it immediately, and everybody is affected by it. This is a famine. It says that everyone rolls, and you discard half of those, as many of those cards. Whatever you roll, you discard. You have that, round down, and that's how many cards you have to discard. And so this is just, things that can happen while you're playing the game. Anyway, so that's just kind of an overview of the civility cards that you can get. All right, you start off. This is the diplomat token. It's just the first player token. It's a fancy name for it. Whoever has that, they roll you roll dice equal to the number of players playing -1. So, and this is a 3 or 4 player game. So this is a 4-player game, so you roll 3 dice. And here you have a 5 and a 5 and a 2. Now, before you can do anything else, I should mention that each person would have 2 cards from the Civility deck dealt them. And so they have 2 cards in their hand. Before you do anything else, you have to take a die action, meaning that you have to look at these dice, and you have to decide what you're going to do with those dice. And since you're the first player, obviously you have several options. You can select a die, and you can place it anywhere in this action ring. Both sides of this are exactly the same, so it's just kind of one of those nice things where, you know, depending on which side of the table you're on, you can still see it. And then you can take those actions. They can be simple, like draw a card, building a bridge. I'll explain that in a little bit. Bridges are just like these little wooden pegs. And if you build a bridge, like you say, I'm going to build a bridge, you just place it in somebody else's city like that. And now you've built a bridge that people can use to attack that city. And that's what bridges are used for. You can do that with a 4. With a 5, you can upgrade the city, meaning you could just take a 5 and you can increase any one of your department levels here, except for government. Government is needs a specific like cards to increase, or you increase your government via winning battles against other players. You can move your army. Any die can you use to move your army. You can move your army home if you want to help and defend your home if you move your army away. Or if somebody has a bridge, like I said, there's a bridge there. Somebody and anybody, as long as that bridge is open, can move over there. Even if it isn't your bridge, you can go there. But only one army can be on any one bridge at any time. Now, just because you move your army there doesn't mean you've attacked yet. You actually have to get an attack action to be able to attack. How do you attack? Well, 6 allows you to build a bridge or attack. There also is a lot of different cards and things like that that will allow you, and special abilities that will allow you to make attacks as well. You don't have to, that isn't the only way you can attack somebody. There is this thing that says you can recruit defenders. You can only do that if there are doubles on the board. Now, you don't use up both the cards. This is actually, I got 2 5s. If somebody, the first player or anybody was playing that had the 2 5s there, they would take one of those dice and they move it over into that location, and then they would increase the number of defenders they have by that number. That is the only time where the actual like number of on the die actually determines how much you'll actually increase your defense level by. And you can't ever increase higher than 6. So if you're on like a 4 and you used a 5, you wouldn't go to 9. You just go up to 6, and that's where you'd be at. Now, there's these other 2 things. There's these tokens, and these are attack anytime tokens or steal a turn tokens. And there's ones over here too. I just kind of split them up. And then you notice that there are a 1 and a 3 and a 2 and a 4. Now, you need a combo to be able to take anything that requires 2 dice. Remember I showed you that card that required 2 dice? Now, normally, well, actually, not normally, you don't have 2 dice ever, unless you go to the trouble of saying, I'm going to take a die and I'm going to save it. You say, I'm saving that die. And now you've put that die aside, and that's your entire turn as far as your dice action is concerned. You've saved that die for a later use. Hopefully, then, later on, when dice are presented to you, again, you can have another die that you can then put with this die, and then you can take these actions that require 2 dice, and that's how you would use those. There is a negative to saving a die, and I'll explain that just really briefly. Now, I know a lot of people are probably saying, well, you're only rolling 3 dice, and there's 4 people, so isn't one person going to kind of get boned? Well, in a way, yes. Now, if on your turn you're looking at the die and you decide not to use the dice as a dice action, it's in very rare circumstances that will happen. You can just not take a die, but you have to lose one level from one of your departments in your city as a penalty for not using a die. Now, if it gets to your turn and there are no dice available to you to do anything, you get to draw 2 civility cards to add to your deck. And then you can go on to the rest of your turn. Now, after the die action, you now can go ahead and play or discard cards from your hand. You can play, as I said, up to 2 cards, any actions you wish, and you can discard cards out of your hand. If you discard 3 cards, you get to increase one of the levels of any of your departments, if you so desire. Now, actions can be anything. They can be moving. There's tons of different ones in there, but I mean, moving armies, making attacks, adjusting, increasing your defenders, or increasing your different levels of these different departments. Or, as I said, like I showed them, you can directly affect people. You can assassinate defenders. You can steal cards from them, things like that. And so you can actually directly affect the other players by using those cards. Finally, after you're done with doing all your actions, you then draw a card to signify that's the end of your turn. Now, if you're the person that got to draw 2 cards because of the fact that you didn't have a die, you don't get to do that. You don't get an extra card on top of the other 2 cards that you just got. And also, you have to make sure that you discard down to 4, so you can't ever have more than 4 cards at the end of your turn. There'll be other times when you're playing and like certain things will happen. It won't be your turn, but you'll get cards in your hand due to certain circumstances. You don't have to discard down to 4 until it gets to your turn, and then at that point you have to be able to do that. I went over the saving dice, and like I said, I mean, you were wondering, I said there's a penalty for doing that. The penalty for saving dice and like and keeping and holding on to like that saved die is that when you get to your turn, when you have no dice and you normally get to draw 2 cards, you don't get 2 cards. And so you might end up in a situation where you're waiting for that one die to show up that'll like complete a good combo for you, but you're kind of hurting yourself because you're taking that penalty of not being able to draw the 2 cards on a turn where you don't even get a die. So it can be one of those waiting games, and hopefully you'll be able to get the die that you need before that happens, or else you will have to take that penalty. Now, I just explain a couple other things. When you take excuse me. When you take a status card and you claim it, you automatically get the increase, and you move your status token to the next spot. And then you immediately, at that point, start handing out perks. Now, what the perks are you look and you see if anybody has, like, whoever is the highest in government, gets this particular perk. If 2 people tie, nobody gets it. And there's a perk for government, there's a perk for education, there's a perk for economy, which is nice, being able to hold 2 extra cards, and there's a perk for technology. There is also a perk for pacifism. Now, you get the pacifist perk if you manage to get to level 3 status and you haven't been involved in any combats. This is pretty rare because it just seems like even if you get close, somebody attacks you anyway, just because they want to make sure you don't get either of these pacifist perks. When you get that, you get to pick one of these 2, and you don't get them both. You just get to pick one of the 2 pacifist perks. Now, a major part of the game is the actual attacking. As I said, you have to, normally, unless there's a special power or a card, you have to have a bridge in somebody's port here. And then you have to have your army in that location. And then you have to be able to take an attack action. When you attack somebody, the attacker takes their army level, which is determined by their city, plus their health, and that is their attack value, their starting attack value. So like if this one has a 3 and a 3, their starting attack value is 6. The defender gets their defense plus their army level as long as their army is at home, is like here defending. And so you add those together. You know, in this case, I mean, obviously they haven't prepared, and I haven't really done like turns of the game so you can see it, but they'd have like a 2. However, as I showed you, there's cards in the deck that have battle cards. And the defender then can go through their deck, find what cards, if they have any, or just if they want to bluff, and they place cards in front of themselves to say, I'm playing these cards to defend myself. Then the attacker can look at the number of cards the defender has played, and they can make up their mind at that point whether or not they, if they have any cards, are going to play that can increase the attack value of their attack that they're making. After everybody's done, you turn the cards over, and you just see who won. As far as the you compare them, and then you see who wins. If the attacker wins, they gain a level in education, economy, technology, and government, and they increase that. And they choose a department which the defender loses a level in, meaning they kind of attacked them and destroyed them. But they can't pick government. You can't destroy their government by doing so. Plus, by being the attacker and being vicious, as a kind of a penalty, you lose one of your defenders that you have, you know, making you more susceptible to be attacked in turn. If the defender wins, you can choose 2 departments to gain 1 level in, or of themselves, or 1 department to gain 2 levels in, but excluding government, and the attacker loses an army level and a government level. Now, that sounds like a lot of, this, that, add that, this, that, and the other thing. But battles happen very fast. It's very easy, and it doesn't bog down the game. A lot of people worry because it is probably the most complex portion of the game as far as as far as the totaling everything up and putting everything together. But once you've done a couple of them, they just go really, really fast, and they don't really slow the game down at all. Other than that, I mean, that's pretty much the entire game of Civility. I mean, there's a lot more to it, as far as the actual gameplay. I mean, there's decisions you have to make as far as the dice are concerned. Which cards to hold on to. There's a lot of hand management in this game, due to the fact that 4 cards is not a lot. And there's a lot of games where I get really good Civility cards that I don't want to get rid of, like that are really, really good. But then I've got to make up my mind as far as, which ones do I want to hold on to, and which ones, situationally. I might have a battle card that's +3, which would be really good, but I don't see myself getting attacked or fighting anybody anytime soon. And I'll get a card that has a really good ability on it that I want to be able to cash in, and then be able to have that for the rest of the game. And excuse me. And so I enjoy that portion of it. This is a game that has a lot of I'm not going to say like really excruciatingly tough decisions, but there is a very, very good, very, very tough balancing aspect to it as far as trying to maintain how powerful you are. Oh, and I forgot to show you one thing. I do apologize. Remember when this person got the status card? You turn the next status card over. Now, and you can see that this one, I set the deck up this way. You can see this one says successfully defend an attack. Meaning somebody attacks you and you defend yourself. Because it's a battle, and you might have somebody that is working towards the pacifist perk, and that would kind of screw them over a little bit as far as like, oh, well, I know you really want to do that, but you're going to have to fight now if you want to actually increase your status. You put that card over here, and and then you turn over the next one, and like this one says, become the leader in both economy and technology. And so now you have 2 status cards that are available to be claimed. And I just realized I forgot one other thing. If the defender, when you're defending and somebody attacks you and you put down your cards, if the attacker decides that they don't think they can defeat you, they have the option to retreat. However, when they do retreat, you as the defender get to steal 2 cards from their hand. So you can't just attack somebody and say, I'm just kidding. There is still a penalty if you run away. But, sometimes it's better to run away and lose 2 cards out of your hand than it is to stay there and get beaten and lose your army and so on and so forth. So, well, there you go. I think I covered everything, and that's how you play the game of Civility. Let me, I like it, but I want to take some time to tell you exactly why I really dig this game and why I'm hoping it gets funded and gets published. Alright, let's do that. Normally you come back from that and you see me flipping a box around, but as I said, I have no box, so I'll have another drink of water. That's good. Alright, so you know how to play Civility, theoretically, as long as you didn't skip ahead. But if you skipped ahead, fine, whatever. This is why I like the game. Well, there's several reasons why I like the game, so let me just kind of go over some of them. I really enjoy the fact that a player's turn is never really difficult for them to figure out. A lot of dice Euros use like combos, or like take Kingsburg for example. You roll your dice and then you got to figure out, do I use the 6 and a 5 as a 6 and a 5, or do I use it as an 11? And so you have this like kind of tough decision. With Civility, you just have 1 die and you use it, and you just place it on the spots, and you go from there. And I like the fact that not every turn will you have a situation where the values and the dice that are left to you are really anything that you want, and 2, if you don't use a die, it kind of bones you a little, because you lose part of that level of the in one of your departments, and so you kind of have to find a creative way to use the die that's available. I mean, thankfully there's a lot of options. 1, 2, 3, you get to draw a card, and things like that. But I mean, if you're stuck with like a 4 and I can build a bridge, I don't want to build a bridge. I don't want to move this, and have access, because I don't really want to go and attack anybody. But it's one of those things where you have to make the best of what you have available to you when you get those, and plus the fact that like when you a lot of games have that when you're the first player, everything's great, I'm the first player, and I get to take the first choice of whatever I want, and then like the next turn it's like, I'm last and this stinks, because I was used to being last turn was awesome. This has that, but it has it like hardcore, because unless something really weird happens, you go from like rolling the dice and having a plethora of choices, as far as like, first pick, and then next turn, most likely you're not even going to get a die to use, because everybody else is going to use the die up, and then it's going to get to you, and you get 2 cards. But it's almost like you have to use the preceding 3 turns to set yourself up, so when that turn comes when you don't have a die and you don't have a dice action, you're set up in such a way that you can have a plan. And so I like that ebb and the flow of the game. It's like the build up, and then you have nothing, but then maybe you prepared well, and now you have something, you have some cards in your hand, or you have a save die or something, okay, not a save die so much, but because you can't use a save die on the turn, because you have to use another die with it. But you get what I mean. As far as you have to think ahead, and a lot of people, when they first played the game, they remarked that to me, where they said that they thought this was a much more simple game at first, just because it was like, take the action, take the action, take the action. But as they played it, and they played it again, and they got more familiar with the game kind of opened itself up to them, and they started seeing what they would be doing 2 or 3 turns ahead of what they're doing now, instead of just and then trying to hopefully plan accordingly for that. I like the fact that in order for you to claim these status cards, you're usually having to give up really valuable resources to do so. I mean, you're taking big giant chunks of the things that you scraped and earned in your departments, and you're turning them in just so you can move up the ladder, and you know, I mean, and you have to do that because that's how you win the game. You're having to turn in tons of cards. You know, you can get some through battles, but battles themselves are really destructive. You know, both for the attacker and defender, regardless of who wins. I mean, you're using up battle cards out of your hand. You know, you're taking yourself out of the running for the pacifist perk if that's something you want to go for, and also, I mean, even if you attack and you win, you're losing defenders, which I think is a really nice touch, because if you have somebody that has put themselves in a fairly unassailable position, you know, as far as with their army and their health, you can exploit that, because the fact that, you know, their defenders, you know, because each time they attack and they're successful, the defenders go down, and so, you know, it's something where you can then move in and strike them, especially if they've been attacking a lot because they've used up their battle cards, and so you can you know, move in and you know, deal some damage right back at them. You know, I said at the beginning it had, like, they told me it had like a civilization theme, and I will agree that it is civilization-y, but this isn't a game. I don't want you going into it thinking this is a game where you're building up a civilization. That isn't it at all. It's kind of abstract in a way, and that's fine. I mean, because there's lots of games that deal with a civilization type of idea that are very in depth and are all about it, you know. And Through the Ages, one of my favorite games, is that. But this game has that theme, but it really doesn't immerse itself into it that much. You know, and I like the different cities, and I know that with their Kickstarter they're going to have some cool like cities that they'll open up with stretch rewards. But the ones that they include, you know, the modern, I showed you the modern, fantasy, utopian, and medieval. There's another one like early man, like cavemen. And each one is really balanced as far as, you know, what their status abilities are, and what they have and what they're able to do. And it does make, you know, it is a little corny, I'll fully admit, you know, that, like, you know, it's like, oh, your fantasy city and the utopian city or whatever. But I mean, it does lend itself to some funny little moments or whatever. Like, I recently played the utopian city, and I was just getting attacked left and right, and I had this image of my utopian hippies running around trying to hand out flowers to all these armies that were just constantly bombarding me and destroying me, and I was like, the flowers aren't working. We need to do something else. Yeah, and so it does tell a story in a way, and just like any good game does. You know, I guess if you're looking for a game that you know, has like the dice-driven actions, but also promotes a lot of conflict. I mean, because this is a game where you are constantly at odds with the other people that are playing. You know, whether it's, you know, playing cards to debilitate them in some way, or, you know, flat out attacking them. This is a game I think you'll enjoy a great deal. It isn't a game of tending your own garden and just kind of sitting back and letting and just doing your own thing. I mean, I tried that, and the boots came marching in pretty quickly, and I got taken down. But that isn't to say that you have to be fighting constantly to succeed in this game. You know, you have to spend time. You have to balance that. You know, as far as you know, there's a time to kind of focus on growing and using your cards and using your abilities to increase your departments. And there's a time when you know, direct conflict is necessary. Yeah, it's a game that, like, I put it as a medium weight type of situation. if you're looking for complexity goes. But as far as like it has a lot of, dare I say, Ameritrash elements to it that I think a lot of people out there that wouldn't normally take to this type of game might really enjoy. As far as like the, I mean, because you have to, at some point, you're going to be standing on somebody else's neck to be able to achieve victory. And this isn't by any means a nice game that you're playing. So, yeah, I mean, I guess if that appeals to you, I really think that you should go to their Kickstarter page and check the game out, and see if it's something that you'll enjoy. I dig the art. From what I understand, the art is fairly finalized, and what I had is pretty close to what it is. I dig the look of the game. I just dig the feel, and I dig the pace. As I said, it isn't a game of really analytical, long-term thinking for your turn. It's a lot of roll the dice. This is what I'm doing. That's what you're doing. That's what you're doing, and it's just it moves at a very quick pace, and I really like that about the game. So, all right. Well, my voice is going, as you probably can hear. I do appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. As always, this has been Undead Viking, and yeah, just go to the Civility Kickstarter page, check it out, see if it's something that would fit for you and your group, and back it if you think it's something you'll enjoy, and get that game published, so all of us can have a really cool game on our shelves in a certain amount of time when it finally gets made. Alright, well, thank you again for watching. I really appreciate it, and until the next video, you have an awesome day, week, whatever. Alright, bye-bye now.